Hello, hello. Are we live? I think we're live. Actually, it's probably better sound quality like this. Now then, inviting Malkie to join. We'll probably do better if I put my theoretically invited. Hi! Oh, here comes Malkie.
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Here we go.
Okay, great.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Oh, let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb before someone tries to call while we're on. There we go. Okay, hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Passover is next week, and it is our tradition to clean. So, like we're still starting out, and we don't have any sponsors, but shout out to it's called Barkeeper's Friend for the stuff is a miracle.
Okay.
This stuff is an absolute miracle. Like sparkly surfaces. I'm generally speaking not a person who feels the need to clean. I mean, I like things clean. I just don't want to be the person doing it. But it really is satisfying when the product works.
Nice. Very glad to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And how are you?
Okay.
We should probably introduce ourselves. I think we skipped that step.
Probably should. Yeah, I'm tired. So in answer to how I am, dealing with some insomnia. But other than that, here.
Yeah.
As every week.
We just had that time change.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's true. Although my insomnia started before that. But yeah.
Because I'm it's like an hour shift and I'm a mess. But yes, you were saying? Introducing ourselves, right?
So yes, introducing ourselves. So hello and welcome to Thriving Sucks. I am Havva Mahler, practitioner of Chinese medicine and expert in classical Chinese astrology. And with me is
Malkie Rimon, awesome life coach.
Wonderful.
For awesome women. Let me add that. I have some amazing clients. Yeah.
I like it.
I like it too.
Okay. Cool. And we are here today to talk about
Oh yeah, today's oh gosh, help me out here. Oh my gosh, my mind blanked. Help me out, Havva.
Unmet Needs. We are going to talk about unmet needs.
Here we go. That was embarrassing, but here we are. Okay. Yes. Today's topic is unmet needs. Would you like to get started from the Chinese classical point of view?
Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind, because I just finished reading that book that I stole from you, is the, pardon me, there's a cat attacking my phone. MJ would like to be involved in the proceedings. Hey. Okay. Attention has been given. So I just finished that book that I borrowed from you, Spiritual Growth by, yes. So the first thing that comes to mind is actually the Hasidic master of Lubin's point of view, which is that the first stage of being able to supply something to someone else is being able to give it to ourselves. I was a little nervous about the book because it starts with loving kindness. And as someone who grew up in a family with a lot of people who were under-resourced, living in a society where there's a lot of, if you want to be truly happy, you have to give to others. And if you want to, work your way out of depression, do nice things for other people. A lot of my adult growth has been about learning that I actually do need to take care of myself, even if other people need things. So I was a little nervous about this book that starts with loving kindness is the basis of all spiritual growth. And then chapter 1, loving kindness for oneself is the prerequisite for being able to give it to other people, because otherwise we're just going to be resentful and miserable. But he works that way through all of the stages of spiritual growth. He discusses each virtue that you're trying to develop. The first stage is giving it to or ideally being supplied in childhood by your parents with loving kindness, the ability to regulate what rules versus the environment, and so on and so forth. So that's what's on my mind today.
Yes. Okay, so here we run into the problem, which is if your needs were not met in childhood, you may not know what they are in adulthood. That's the problem with unmet needs, is that they are often absolutely and completely invisible to us. We don't know until we start demanding irrational or what we believe to be totally, well, okay, that was the cat.
Yeah, okay, hang on. Right, so on that subject, my kitten MJ, apparently lost her mother too young. And I have reason to believe that she lost her mother too young because at the age of 2 years old, she still does suckles. She still has suckling and kneading behavior, which kittens that were weaned at the appropriate age generally do not keep having this behavior into adulthood.
Okay. Hey, Jewel, you know what? We're going, when the show is finished, we'll put, Havva, will you be able to put the title of the book?
I will put the title of the book.
I think it's
just called Spiritual Growth, which will be totally unhelpful without the author's name.
Yeah.
I will absolutely put it in the notes, right. Yes.
I'm pretty sure you can get it off of Amazon. I got, my copy is from the author who lives in Jerusalem.
It's the first book I've ever read where I experienced the, oh my God, I want to go out and buy a box of them so I can just hand them to people.
Isn't it great? I got one for my sister for her birthday.
Amazing. I was actually thinking about someone I know who's not Jewish being like, all right, I need to provide a glossary.
Right, that's true. You know what? Maybe it's worthwhile, you know, because the book, it's what? How many pages is it? It's like skinny as anything.
Yeah, it's like 170 or something. Yeah.
I'm not even sure it's that many. And it just, every page is like, okay, I need to put this down, walk away, and really let that settle in. It's really something very, very special.
Right. Okay. Well, I really appreciate actually that it explained that thing where, you know how your kids are awful, like they're just terrible? And then you talk to other parents, like their friends' parents, and they're like, oh my God, your kids are so adorable. They volunteered to clear the table. My kids never do that.
Okay, so I can't say that my kids are terrible because my kids are really wonderful.
Your kids are great.
I'm not really, but I've heard, this is my experience of life. I understand that other people have a different experience. I've seen that plenty, like or I think someone's kid is like this marvelous person, the parents have no idea what I'm talking about. Yeah, but they're dreadful.
Right. So one of his stages of spiritual growth in developing loving kindness is where you still need to get more than you can give, but you need to experiment with giving.
Right.
And so he's like, and this is a very normal stage of childhood development where they're like selfish little brats at home because they need to know that they need to still be completely supported by their parents. They're not ready to start giving back to the people who are supporting them, but they start to develop the ability to give, to pass on the kindness that they receive.
Yes. Yes. Children require a lot of patience. But let's go back to adult unmet needs. The problem with adult unmet needs, one of them is what we just, as I was saying earlier, we just don't know what they are. So because
we don't know what they are, we don't know what to ask for or who to ask for help from. Yes.
Right. And oftentimes, I know that I was doing this. We just push them down and push them down and push them down. Needs, I don't have any needs. I'm fine. I have an acquaintance, and she's only, I tried to befriend her. I really wanted to be friends with her. She is an acquaintance because this is how she goes through life, by pushing, by disclaiming any, like, oh, I have no needs, everything is fine, and then becoming furious with people for not fulfilling expectations that she never shared, or even worse, when I offered, she slammed me down. All like really kind of like it was painful, like it hurt a lot, like it hurt, like this wasn't, the story did not happen last week, and I am still like, I still feel a little bit like, where did that come from? And as we're having this conversation, oh, this is her unmet needs, and in her case they came out violently, and because she was so detached from them, they came out violently and aggressively. like just that frustration.
That reminds me, I'm listening to a lecture about how children have a need for physical play and wrestling. And the person who's being interviewed is talking about how he developed his technique based on something he learned when training his dog, where he was taught by a very good trainer that puppies need to bite things because they don't have hands. Their only way of manipulating their main way of manipulating the world, moving things, getting attention, is by biting. And so he's like, you need to let the puppy bite you and then respond appropriately when it's too hard, so that the puppy learns what the correct level of strength is to just reach out and grab your hand or pick something up. And dogs that are prevented from ever play biting will grow up to be overly aggressive or violent dogs because they just don't know that they're hurting people or how to not hurt people.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And it's a need that children have. That whole aggressive, like, rambunctious play, robust play that is very much missing from large parts of Western society at this point. And
very much so. But if you take that, I just think if you take that to the emotional level of if someone is never allowed to express the fact that they have needs, then they won't know how to do it as an adult.
Yes. I'm thinking of a family that I know where the children were simply not permitted any form of aggressive, like rambunctious play. They just were, the mother was very anxious, and that sort of play made her more anxious, and her children are not well. The boys specifically are not well. They're just not. It's, because that need to shut down anything that terrifies you can stunt others. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're never allowed to deal with things that cause us fear, then we'll never learn how to deal with things that cause us fear, which will be everything that we're interacting with for the first time.
Yeah.
Because the unknown is scary.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do we figure out what our unmet needs are so that we don't go leaking them all over other people?
Okay, so I cheat. I have a list.
I knew you would.
These are essential human needs. Which one makes you cry when I talk about it?
Okay, I'm just going to laugh because that's so true.
I found out something that I had working with my business coach, because we're about to get off the call, and she said, this is great. I love this plan. You can totally do it. I have faith that you will have wiped this out by next week, and you'll be reporting complete success. And I burst into tears. And she's like, not the reaction I was expecting. I managed to stop crying and say, hang on, like, I can hear the other voice in my head. Give me a minute, and I will tell you, like, what is echoing in response to what you said. I was expected to behave more maturely than was appropriate for my age growing up, because I was very mature and my parents didn't know any better. And due to various situations, they needed to rely on me. And I eventually said to her, I'm like, I hear you in one ear saying, like, you can do it, that's great. And in my other ear, what I'm literally hearing is, okay, well, it's all on you now. No one's going to help you, and it will be entirely your responsibility when it fails.
Oh my gosh. Can I just hug you? I'm like right over here, you're right over there. I'm gonna hug you. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh. So the unmet need there is just be I'm not allowed to drop the F-bomb here, but kid.
Yeah.
Fill in the space yourselves.
Yep. But
you just need to be a kid.
Yeah. And yes, very much so. And I think, I've been doing self-development work / investigating human growth / therapy for many, many years. And like, kind of reached the point where I could immediately feel what was being triggered. And that's not normal, I think, for most people starting out. But that reaction of my unmet need has been poked, I am going, like, an emotion is going to come out of one of my orifices.
Oh, God.
Tears are going to happen, shouting is going to happen, throwing up is going to happen. Like, our bodies react.
Yeah. And meanwhile, what you really need is a Barbie doll. This is something that people think is too late as adults to play. It's not too late.
No, I have traumatic history with Barbie dolls. My neighbor's little brother would, like, bite limbs off of them, so they...
How about a Barbie doll that won't, I mean, just keep it away from the cats and it won't have limbs bitten off.
I really, you cannot imagine how much I don't want a Barbie doll.
Okay. But that's the idea, that's the concept, is I think that we believe that, I think that actually might be worthwhile for all of us who were expected to be two adults, is find the way in which you play now and play that way. I think that, yeah, play is
100%.
super important. And oftentimes in adults, it's an unmet need.
Okay, so another trigger is that one of the things I researched a couple years ago was play in adults and how much we need it. Yes, too much on kids' shoulders, I think kind of describes modern life. Even in families where there aren't extra burdens, because life is so much crazier and busier and kids are expected to learn so much more, but separate issue. But okay, so on the subject of play, like I'm reading these books about play, and adults need to relearn how to play, and every single one of those effing books starts with, think about what you like to do as a child, or think about how you spent your spare time as a child. I'm like, these books were not written for parentified children.
Not that kind of parentified children.
Yeah.
But yeah. On the one hand, on the other hand, you have very fond memories of goats, which is not something that lots of people can say.
Oh no, I'm not like, oh, poor me, my childhood was so much worse than everyone else's. My childhood was differently good and bad than other people's, which is normal.
Yeah, that's true for everybody. That's true for everybody. Right. So how else can we get to our unmet needs besides crying when somebody asks us to do something?
I think being aware of when you feel taken advantage of. Pay attention to that. Because when someone is asking you, or when you feel expected to give something you didn't get, that feels awful. It can make people act really irrationally, but I think one of the main things that you can feel is taken advantage of by the person who's asking it, or needs it, or by the world in general, or just generally oppressed by life. That's a really good sign that someone's asking you to pour from your not full cup. Right.
What else? Can you think of other ways? Because oftentimes, if you're a parent, you can identify what your unmet needs were by the things that you have to give your children, even though they're not interested.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Lack of recognition of boundaries is, definitely.
That's actually how we got to the unmet needs conversation. That was last week.
It's like the last month of talks is about boundaries, but for sure. And then we concluded that one of the issues with boundaries can be unmet needs that we have, that we're trying to compensate for. Someone said that I don't remember who now. Someone I listened to said that as a Scottish life coach, that parents will generally try and either recreate their childhood or give their children everything they didn't get, like do the opposite. And he's like, the problem is that both of these paths are forgetting that your parents weren't perfect or totally awful, and your kid is a different person than you are.
Especially that last bit.
Yes.
And has different needs. And in my case, actually in all of our cases, anybody who's my age and has children, no, actually anybody of any age and has children is literally raising children in an environment that they have no, like they just have no compass for, with social media, with, not that I'm complaining about social media, seeing as how we're on Instagram right now. I'm not one of those people, but the reality is that we're raising our children in a completely different world than the one we grew up in. So they're going to have different needs than we did. And it's just that it creates, I think, it makes parenting a little bit, no, okay, it makes parenting a heck of a lot more complicated.
Yes.
Just a lot more complicated. Yeah.
I remember reading a book. It was about like 14th century Jewish manuscript illustration. But as like, it was like a throwaway line in the book practically. Yeah, the reality that we're not used to. Exactly. Yes. It's a reality that we don't know how to work in. But it was like talking about this doctor in the 14th century who, there was a book about him and there was a woodcut from the book that was being talked about. And they're like, as far as we know, this is the last human being who had read literally every book on medicine that was written in his culture. Because there were like 14 books and he read them all.
Wow.
But then he wrote simple books and his apprentices couldn't read everything that had been written before him and his books. And that was like the age that knowledge escaped how much we can absorb over the course of a human life.
Yeah. Yeah. Once upon a time, it was believed that humans had, in the Middle Ages, it was believed that everything that could have been invented and every thought that could have been thought has already come to pass. And it's just a matter of keeping things for future generations.
Like, I think 114 years ago, someone said that physics was done except for the mopping up. You've noticed that since 114 years ago.
Yeah.
We found out that other solar systems are a thing, just for a start.
Yeah. Yeah, that was exciting. And other, you know, what if Star Trek people refer to as M-class planets.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're trying to fill your children's needs with something that maybe they don't actually need, that's a clue that that's something inside of you. Although at the same time, something that seems to actually fill our needs, and this is going to sound a little bit odd, is figuring out what our children's actual needs are. And even if it means pushing ourselves, even if it means stretching, even if it hurts a little bit, meeting those actual needs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the, like, there seems to be in parenthood a curative property there.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I think
Gordon, you felt not me.
I think not necessarily in parenthood, but I think it's easiest to do in the framework of parenthood. Yes, I already said I would never compare you to an actual human baby because you're so much easier, but you're doing your best today.
Yeah. Pepper was in and out. My dog was in and out right before we started, so I'm just sitting here going, yeah. Pets.
Yeah. Pets. Give us a chance to take care of others' needs.
Yes. Yeah.
So they did a study in a nursing home where each resident was given a plant. And on half the floors of the nursing home, they were told, this plant is your responsibility. You take care of it if you want it to live. If you don't want it, throw it out. This is your plant. We got a donation. Each person gets one. Do what you want. The other half of the floors, this is a study, were given a plant and told, here, you have a plant. The nurse will water it every day. Be sure to let someone know if it's looking sad, and we're going to take care of it for you. Residents of the nursing home who were given responsibility for the plant lived twice as long.
Wow.
From that moment, not like from birth. From the time the experiment started, they lived, I think they lived on average 6 months longer, and the people whose plants were taken care of for them lived on average 3 months longer.
So having the plant at all is still good.
Having the plant at all is still good.
There's something to that, you know? It doesn't have to be perfect. That also, like, imperfect also helps.
Absolutely.
I think that humans have a need to give. I think it is the rare person who does not have the need to give. It's just that we can be really clumsy about it.
Well, we can be clumsy about it, but also, so finally back to the Chinese, at least from my perspective, each person has specific things they want to give.
Right.
There's like energy that we have, energy in us that has an outward motion. Mm-hmm. And if what I want to give isn't what someone else wants to get, there's that mismatch. And you can see sometimes someone who's the energy that they want to give is, I want to take care of you. I want to feed you. I want to support you. And their kid or whoever they're dealing with is someone who's very independent and wants to make their own way and don't feel like they don't owe anyone to anything. Or, you know, someone whose energy, whose talent, whose gift that they want to share with the world is noticing small details, can be the sort of person who everyone dreads them coming into their house because they're immediately going to go, oh, your curtains have started to fade. And you have that scratch there by the door. That's new. That wasn't there last time. Were you moving furniture? And so people can do that in like an obnoxious way. But sometimes that's a gift that people have that they want to share.
Right. And oftentimes they're doing it from kindness.
Yeah.
Because that's what they see. That's their experience of the world, is those tiny little details. Okay, Havva, I have to ask you what time it is because I've got a kid I have to pick up.
It is 3 minutes to 7.
Then it's time for us to wrap up.
All right.
But we only scratched the surface again. What do you think?
I think we can do another. I think we can totally do another episode on Unmet Needs.
Yeah.
Are we going to do it next week, which is Erev Pesach?
I'm thinking that for a half hour, my daughter does not have theater class that week, so I don't have to run to pick her up in half an hour to put things down. I think let's say it's doable. It's doable.
So in that case, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week, same time, same channel, for part 2 of Unmet Needs.
Thank you so much for joining us this week. If you have, by the way, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We love it when our users interact with us. We love it when our viewers rather interact with us. We love it. And if you have any questions that you want us to address, please just drop them in the comments. We love it.
Absolutely. Or send us a message. I'm going to write some notes and reload this video. So I will put the title of the book we were discussing at the beginning in there, the title and the author's name. And we will see you next week.
Fantastic.
Thank you
See you next week.
for joining us.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.